Good evening, and welcome to the Night Owl, and a very happy Halloween to you. If you're new here, this is the other side of the Bird Brain podcast, where things that go bump in the night have a little bit more freedom to roam. I must warn you, content may contain adult language and scenarios that may not be suitable for all audience members, so listeners' discretion is always advised. It's Halloween night. It's that time of the year again. I feel like some of us wait all year for this day to come. Me personally, I like to get a little head start come January. But for those who patiently wait for this day, I commend you. Some people get dressed up, letting their wildest desires come to life, while others prefer a quiet night in. But even on a calm Halloween night, the trick-or-treaters still come knocking, expecting treats, or maybe offering some of their own. But in tonight's story, when this group of friends gathers for a simple dinner, the world outside might have other plans. So, lock your doors, check your windows, grab some candy. But before you get comfortable, check your doors one more time. Because you may not be sleeping tonight. I present to you the Halloween special, Just for Tricks. It was awesome that the six of us managed to keep up the tradition of getting together for Halloween. Growing up, we would roam our town, and as we got older and got permission, we'd venture out to neighboring towns. We had buddies from different schools, so we all had a meeting point. We just roamed together. It was about 15 of us total, and it was cool because no one was destructive or chaotic. People actually looked forward to seeing us because we always got creative with our costumes. We had our own contest too. There was who got the most candy, who wore the most creative costume, who could survive the scariest haunted house, and we always chose, and who managed to watch the most horror movies. I usually won the horror movie contest. As life would have it, people move away or get new friends or get into relationships, and now the couple's costumes become a priority, you know? Every year our crew got a little smaller, and it's a bummer because it was always a good time with a larger group. But the core group stayed. Me, Dean, Taylor, Roxy, Kelly, and Tisha. I'm grateful for that. I've known these guys for forever, so there was no backing out or abandoning the crew for anything or anyone. As we became adults, the contest stayed, and so did the rules, for shits and giggles, especially getting the most candy. Since going trick-or-treating as an adult was awkward, it was hilarious how each of us could get the most candy. And the main rule is that you couldn't buy your own. Some of us had younger siblings, which worked out, or nieces and nephews. Our little relatives had a blast and took it serious to make sure their aunties and uncles or their older brothers and sisters got the most candy. Nowadays, the creativity is a bit unmatched, but they made it happen. Costumes. We had to make our own, and there was no being the slutty nurse or vampire bullshit. Taylor always tried to be a slutty nurse, but we refused to let him. Hey, guys can be nurses too. We know, but you're not a nurse just because you're a slut. Touche. He was a good sport and far from a playboy. It was easy to love Taylor and hard not to. We had a blast. My adult years had been full of just surprises, for lack of a better word. A lot of loss, shifts, breakups. And I won't say it was all bad, but let's just say I always looked forward to Halloween because I know I could count on these guys. Commitment is a thing as you get older, to say the least. But our favorite part was the horror movies and haunted houses growing up. We'd been to some creepy spots, and if you ask each one of us privately and separately, I can almost bet you get an honest answer about what scared each of us the most, and when. I've watched Dean get uncomfortable multiple times when we pick out spots or recount places we've been to. Dean, he was the stoic, the scientist, the denier of anything otherworldly. I'm not going to lie, I got some level of satisfaction seeing him actually be scared or having his reasoning questioned. Dean and I grew up together, and there were things that we both experienced that logically couldn't be explained. But it never stopped him from trying. It annoyed me most times. It felt invalidating, so to see things were getting to him reminded me I wasn't crazy. Never in a million years would I want something to happen to that guy. There's not too many good humans left. But that's what I liked about my crew. It was a bunch of smartasses. Literally. The last haunted house we decided that would be our last. And instead, we'd figure out something else to celebrate the day. It was a close call. We prepared well, at least we thought. Dinner parties were the go-to, the older we got. Growing up, we always went to our town diner and stayed there until late. It had to be after Halloween night ended, at midnight. You know, legends have their truth sometimes. I didn't necessarily believe in energy and psychics, but this time I think I'd be proven wrong because my feelings no longer felt right. The reason we all became friends is because we all realized growing up we'd been feeling the same feeling about a house in our neighborhood, the Rose house. Rodney and his family, the Rose, were the cream of the crop family. Wealthy, well-liked, or feared, not sure. But they were well known. His dad had been in this town forever. Our folks went to school with him. And whenever Rodney came up in conversation, my folks made a point to not say much. His mom was an heiress. More money than any of us would see in a lifetime. His siblings weren't your typical brats. Their folks seemed to be the bigger children. And like clockwork, any kid who had a problem with the Rose, their parents miraculously lost their jobs. Or sometimes worse. It was all town legend, unless you knew who to talk to. My parents were both cops, so they give me the scoop from time to time. For a while, we were all cool with Rodney, but something changed. Not all money is good money, man. You know, my dad had a way of saying one thing that had 1,000 layers to it. But he and I were close enough that I just got it. He was my best friend, and still is. Didn't have the typical man who feared his emotions or feelings. My pops was a badass and highly respected, but man, did he look out for me. My mom did too. And they loved spooky stuff just as much as me, so it made me feel confident about what I liked. It hit the town paper. It hit neighboring towns. Hell, it got across the country. "20 years ago, Halloween night, 11:59 p.m., right before the spirits go back to their resting place, Rodney came home to an empty one. You know, some people had joked about aliens taking them. Some people had the real scoop. I mean, I did. I overheard my folks talking about it that night I got home. That night I went to bed and I don't know why, but I felt like someone was in the corner of my room watching me sleep. Pissed that I'd be resting in peace. Rodney at some point had an issue with me for my parents doing their job, and him and his friends being dicks. His folks tried to get my folks fired, but like his parents, mine were also highly regarded and respected. His dad and mine had history. Buddies who became rivals, who became enemies. You know, karma isn't a bitch, but she gets shit done. But losing your family, like literally, that's something I wouldn't wish on anyone. It's rough, to say the least. The report said it was a possible ransom, but they were never found. Any of them. Rodney had ended up moving away, and that was the last we heard of him. But for years, people would swear that they saw a kid on the porch of the Rose house in a costume on Halloween night. They hired psychics to investigate, and of course, they always felt some sort of presence. But I knew for sure. We all did. Because we heard things. We saw things. But we trespassed, so those things we really couldn't talk about. That Halloween night, we had decided to do some ghost hunting. We got what we needed. Equipment, batteries, you name it. And when we arrived, you could feel it. We set up the cameras and simply waited until dark. We made sure to pair up because the house was so damn big. Dean and I took upstairs and set things up. Hey, you can't be serious about this, man. D, I'm very serious. We don't even know for sure if anything happened here. The family went missing, remember? They weren't found. Hey, I need some help. We'll be right there. I yelled back downstairs. Hey, look, we'll just set this up and head back down. Their house was huge, to say the least, and I mean huge, but it also felt empty. Not because no one lived here, but because no one loved here. It sounds cheesy, I know, but the master bedroom had windows that would open out to a huge backyard overlooking the town. The foyer was marble floored, and everything was just royal and pristine. We set up and hurried back downstairs to the rest of them. They had all walked in too. Hey, what do you need help with? Huh? Tisha said. You yelled for help. No, I didn't. Dean and I looked at each other but ignored it. But I knew he knew. Cameras were set, so we set. Oh, shit. We all tried to scatter and everybody freaked out, except Taylor. He walked over to the door and we hid. Hey, guys, I got us pizza. Taylor, what the hell were you thinking? Well, we'd be hungry on this damn ghost hunt, so you're welcome. He wasn't lying, and we couldn't be mad at him. The night lingered on with nothing to boot. Time check. Midnight. Still nothing. All right, time to pack it up. And then a door slammed in the back of the house. Static started on the EVP. And someone is back there. I just saw someone. Don't do that, Kelly. Kelly didn't joke about shit like this, so I believed her. And Dean and I know what we heard upstairs. We gotta go. Something doesn't feel right. I followed Roxy's eyes as she studied the upstairs balcony. Hey guys, did you check all the rooms? Yeah. No, all the rooms. Yeah, Rox, we checked it. Before I could say anything, I looked up. Someone had a comfortable view of all of us, watching us. They stayed hidden in the dark. And a door slammed that damn near took the wind out of all of us. We grabbed what we could and hauled ass out of there. Guys, wait, my equipment is upstairs. Dean knew that the majority vote was not for going back in there. Hey, we'll get it tomorrow, man. I mean, he was just as terrified as we were, so he obliged. We drove off from the big house and made a point to not look back. But you could feel eyes on you as we drove away. I got home and the lights were still on in the kitchen. I could see from the outside. As I approached the front door, I noticed that my folks left cookies on the chair on the porch. To Jay, Happy Halloween. I grabbed them and headed inside. My folks were sound asleep, which was odd because they usually don't leave the lights on. I showered and I could not wait to go to bed. I heard the doorbell ring. I checked the time. It was 3 a.m. I figured I'd forgot something, but when I opened the door, it was no one. Just the breeze and leaves. But it felt like it could have been someone there. I closed the door. I locked the door, all of them, then I headed to bed. The next morning, my parents asked how was the movie and dinner. I told them not bad and thanked them for the cookies. What cookies? You left outside on the porch. They looked at each other confused. I couldn't tell them where I was, and I never did. That day, Dean sent us a picture, all in the group chat. A picture of his equipment, nicely placed on the porch. We all refused to tell our parents about that night. And since then, it's been dinner and a movie, actually. Till this day, we never mentioned that night. We were too scared to talk about it. But we all know what we saw. I got the house set, got the movie spec'd out, and in between the doorbell ringing for trick-or-treaters, I'd been prepping. It was the perfect night, and since it was the weekend, there'd be more trick-or-treaters. Kelly and Taylor arrived together because, well, they were now together. But I'm glad it didn't change much. Tisha arrived, then Roxy. We all got things in order. Some helped in the kitchen, others entertained the trick-or-treaters. Hey, where's Dean? Taylor asked, and the doorbell rang. There he is, as I heard Roxy yell from the front of the house. Dean came into the kitchen, carrying a few bags of his own. And it was always good to see my brother. But something seemed different about him, but I didn't pay too much attention. Alright guys, here's the list we got for the night. We got an OG slasher, a ghost story, a comedy. I vote the OG, because you can't go wrong with that. We voted, and then we moved on to the others. Who got the most candy? It was Tisha. The doorbell rang, and we heard a unison, "Trick or treat." And that went on for a while before we could actually settle down. All right, seems like things are slowing down, shall we? Let's. I grabbed some snacks and settled into the living room. This was our favorite part because we got to have dessert too, and Taylor didn't miss when it came to his baking skills. As we got settled and pressed play, the doorbell rings. Hey, I thought we turned the lights out, I said. I did, Kelly says. Looking at the porch, the light was on, and through the glass I couldn't see anyone. Dean went and opened the door, and that's when I heard him. Hey. I met him at the door, and there was someone standing there, a couple of feet back, bag in their hand. He wore an old sack with an old-fashioned scarecrow mask with a top hat, and he had to be about 8, maybe 10 at most. Hey, kid, we got a little more left, so you're lucky, but it's late, no? There was no answer. He just holds out his big bag, and we drop the candy in the bag, and like a statue, he never took his eyes off of us. All right, see you later, bud. I closed the door. Dean and I looked at each other. We laughed a little and went back to the crew. Hey, who was it? Some little kid still out, apparently. No parents? Didn't see any. Creeps were probably hiding somewhere. Yeah, what kind of adults makes a kid get the candy for them? Tacky, Taylor says. Tasteless, Tisha follows. Straight up repulsive, Kelly follows up. We all laugh since we were literally using our own nieces and nephews and siblings for the same thing. But I couldn't get the look of him out of my head. And it felt like that kid knew something. The night went on, and the movie was starting to get good. Of course, Taylor nodded off. Tisha, Kelly, and Roxy were chatting in the kitchen. Dean and I had been the only ones paying attention to the movie, and I was surprised because usually he'd hide in the bathroom for a while. Me and Dee talked daily. It was unnatural if we didn't. But leading up to the week of Halloween, I noticed he'd been distant. And this was different. In our lives, no matter what he and I had been through, communication never stopped. So when it happened, I didn't know what to think. I gave him space. Felt like the guy thing to do, I guess, but part of me wonders if I misread the whole thing and he actually wasn't doing well. I could tell he was doing his best to enjoy the night, but I could also tell something was up with him. He stared at the TV screen, straight ahead, like he was in a trance. Hey, bro, you want anything from the kitchen? I'm gonna go grab some cookies and see what the girls are up to. Nah, I'm good, man. Thank you, though. I'll be back. You sure you're okay, dude? The doorbell rang again before he could answer. What the fuck? Hey, Jay, you expecting someone? Yeah, everyone I wanted to spend time with was in this house currently. No? Are you? Ha ha, very funny. We still give Roxy heat for inviting one of her hookups to Halloween dinner once, and she's been on parole for some time. I go to the door, and it was the same kid. I checked the time. It was getting close to 10 p.m. I slowly open the door. I look around to see if anyone else was out there with him, but it was a ghost town. Hey, it's late, buddy. Where are your parents? Nothing. Something scared the shit out of me about this. Hey guys. I called out to the rest of the house for everyone to come to the door. What the fuck? I heard Tisha whisper. The kid slowly raised his bag up, not taking his eyes off of any of us. He stood there, arms extended for what felt like forever. Hey, we ran out, kid. Go home, man. I slowly closed the door. We all head back into the living room, and I checked the window. And he was gone. What the fuck was that? The room felt quiet. Hey, who set their nephew up to do this? And cool costume, by the way, but let's be serious. Taylor tried to lighten the vibe, but we all felt weird about it. It'd been a clear night. My street was quiet on a normal day. But tonight seemed like it found a new way to deafen any and everything. It was getting close to midnight, and it became hard for us to concentrate, and it was clear everyone was feeling the same thing. And the doorbell rang again. Eyes got big around the room. Taylor gets up and we follow. He opens the door. Hey. He closes the door and turns around. What? I figured I'd get us pizza. Typical Taylor, but man, I was glad it was pizza and nothing else. We all congregated in the kitchen and got to talking. I looked around and Dean was nowhere to be found. I went back in the living room. He was looking out the window. That kid is back, bro. Dean looked at me. Hey, guys. We get to the door, and there he is standing there, hands behind his back, as he slowly raises his arms to receive candy. This time his head tilts slightly as he looks up at all of us, and he slowly starts to smile. And we couldn't tell if it was a mask or his actual face. He lunges forward, and we all rush into the house. And there's a thud at the door, then a slow, repetitive knock. Then the lights flickered, and then dark. I took out my phone, held it up to make sure everyone was all good. I saw Dean standing in the hallway, staring straight at the wall, and I could see his chest moving up and down. What the fuck was he hiding? Hey, Dean. I kept my voice low, and it snapped him out of his trance. I walked past everyone and straight to him. Bro, you know what's going on or something? What is it? The rest of the guys meet us in the hallway. Guys, what's going on? The lights cut back on, and we take it into the kitchen. Dean, you've been acting weird with me for the past week, man. What's going on? There's silence. Dean! Tisha looks at him. That morning, I got my equipment back. He paused. We were all puzzled at first, but it didn't take us long to realize what he was referring to. That was damn near 20 years ago, man. What about it? When I got my equipment back, there was a picture with it. It was that kid. That kid we keep seeing outside. I saw him outside of my house last week too, and I thought it was just a joke. And that's when Roxy mentioned something. I saw him that night when we left the house. I saw him in the rear view as we drove away. I didn't mention anything because the same reason none of us mentioned anything. We all left that house knowing something wasn't finished. We didn't do anything wrong other than the fact that we were there. Or so I thought. Dean exhales. I did something stupid. That night I told the house to prove to me this shit was real. Make me a believer. Because all this time I just been trying to be excited for all of this. I enjoy spending time with you guys, but a lot of this time I was annoyed. I felt obligated. You know, Dean and I never hid anything from one another. And this one felt like a betrayal. It sounds dramatic, but it makes you wonder, what else did he not like? Friendships don't always ask the deep questions because the expectations for it are always supposed to be love and light. The doorbell rings. We all shift our eyes to the door. Hey, don't answer. I look around the kitchen. Taylor. Where's Taylor? I'm in here. He didn't sound his cheesy self anymore. We go into the living room, and Taylor's sitting on his phone. What's up, dude? Hey, Kelly, tell him. Tell them what? Taylor, what's up, bro? Why didn't you ever tell any of us about you and Rodney, Kelly? Rodney? Yeah, Rodney Rowe, Kelly. Kelly froze. And then she got annoyed. Because it wasn't anything serious. Yeah, but getting my parents fired was. What? Someone knew about the conversation you had with Rodney about my folks. Why? Were you that mad about me not dating you? We were best friends, Kelly. Kelly paused. It pissed me off that you thought you were better. Always the goofball, but always the good guy. It was annoying, and I know I fucked up, but I didn't think it would lead to your folks getting fired. I'm sorry. Taylor kept his composure. My parents had to break the bank to afford a living. I had to skip college for 2 semesters to just help. Kelly, what the fuck? Tisha says. You and your boys, girl. What the fuck's that supposed to mean, T? What it always means. How many times did you bail on me for some date that bailed on you? But this shit? That's a new low. And you never told anyone. Kelly sits quiet as her eyes shift to Dean. Dean, you knew this shit? The walls were closing in because who we were to one another at this point, and who that kid was outside, and how he was tied to all of this. Dean, we were bros. Yeah, except for you telling people I cheated to get into med school. Karma isn't a bitch, she just does her job well. There's a knock at the door. One, then another. Finally, we hear something at the back door. Then there's a pull on the knob and then a slow creak as it opens. I run to the kitchen and close the door before it has the opportunity to open completely. It feels like something was pushing on the other end. There was something wedged in the door. It was my cap. I left at the house that night. I slowly walked back into the living room. Dean opened the front door. He came back with a bag. And it was something personal for Kelly, Tisha, Roxy, and Taylor. Something they all left behind that night. Something had been there with us that night. And it was making sure we knew it too. We sat in the living room silent. And it's ironic that Halloween was our favorite day together because we all had been hiding behind some mask with one another. Clearly. A door opened slowly and slammed shut in the back of the house. Then the lights went out again. I could see the top of a hat pass the island of the counter and then disappear. And then I heard shuffling of a bag behind the couch where Dean was sitting. And just then Dean gets jerked back and the wind gets knocked out of him. Around his neck were two hands hiding behind his body. And finally that hat, the smiling face, peered from around him. We followed as it dragged him towards the exit. Kelly picked up a bottle and pegged him. She was a pro softball player and she didn't miss her mark. It released him and ran out the door it came in. Dean wheezed. Okay, what the hell is going on? We were panicked. We got to get away from here. But it's probably outside. We'd be stupid to try. Just then, Taylor, what did you take? What? That fucking thing whispered something while it had me pinned. It said you had it. Taylor became serious. I sold it. What? What was it? There was jewelry in the box at the house. I guess when it got abandoned, it got left behind. My folks were strapped, and I had a feeling they had something to do with it, so I considered it collateral. I sold it. I knew I could get something for it. Well, they clearly didn't miss it if they left it behind. Clearly they didn't miss it if they left it behind. Well, clearly they did, bro. Taylor, did you really sell all of it? Taylor puts his hands in his pocket to hide his hands. That ring, I did notice you always wore it after that day, and I never paid attention to it. It was just a trophy, man. I didn't know it'd be a big deal. Well, clearly there's more he's looking to be put in his bag. The doorbell rings again. Give it back to him so he can fucking leave. The doorbell rings again. Then the lights flicker. They all slowly walk to the door. The scarecrow kid is standing there, hand stretched out, bag in hand. Taylor slowly takes the ring off. Here, I'm sorry. And he drops it in the bag. The scarecrow stands for a moment, and the smile changes to a serious face, and it walks away. And two people accompany him. We closed the door, but the energy was still there. No one knew what to say. It was 5 a.m. No one said much as they left. I didn't know if I'd see any of them again after this. But I stopped Dean. He hugged me, and he went on his way. I closed the door, I took a shower, and I slept. Heaven knows I needed to. I woke up the next day to start the day, since I had to go pick up some things from the groceries. I went downstairs, double-checked everything was cleaned up, and I got in my car. And before I could drive away, I noticed the bag, the mask, and a picture of me sleeping. what a story. And thank you for joining me for this special opportunity and episode that I get to share with you guys. Take care of yourselves this Halloween. Make sure you take care of each other. Sleep tight.